All right, welcome back, everybody. This is the OR Tambo building. This is the headquarters for the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. That's what we've been talking about this morning, international relations and the role that our heads of missions play in respective countries. There you can see on your screen, Lulu Tlingwane, you remember her very, very well, no doubt. We're also honored to have her here with us, and I know that we paid her a visit when we visited her in Ghana. We went there for dinner, and it was an absolute pleasure. Good to see you. Thank you so very, very much for attending this. In fact, 136 heads of missions are in attendance here, and they've come in from the countries that they are representing South Africa in to attend this biennial conference. It's quite interesting to read what the president had to say, because the president addressed the conference, because this conference has been going on for 4 days. So we talk about the fact that this is to hold the responsibility of South Africans in their hands. And I think that's a very big responsibility to everybody here. The president said that they have the responsibility to build friendships and partnerships overseas in order to help boost South Africa's economic growth. And I think he really did focus a lot on the economy and growing the South African relations. While he said, our representatives abroad, you have the responsibility to build friendships and partnerships that'll help us achieve the goals. The economy remains the apex priority, and we want to achieve inclusive growth, jobs, and a decent life for our people. So let's continue to talk to some of the ambassadors that are here and consul generals that are present here this morning. And it's quite interesting, and particularly I'm going to move our attention to the US relations. And I know we've got Ambassador Mahlangu here. In fact, that's another ambassador who we had the privilege of dining at his house when we were visiting Washington. So that was really lovely. But I think it's important to bring in, so as we get a microphone to the ambassador, we bring in the fact that we've just seen the final debate being held between Hillary Clinton and, of course, Donald Trump, and the run-up to the US elections. It was held in Las Vegas. And I don't know, from early reports, it's looking like Hillary Clinton did take that one. But for us, what does it mean? And those relations between South Africa and the US, and which candidate, Republican or Democrat, how is it going to influence South Africa? I'm going to bring the ambassador into this conversation because I think it's very important to get that view. It's current, it's happening, and it's around the corner. It's so lovely to see you once again, Ambassador, and welcome back to South Africa. Let's talk US and South African relations with the presidential election around the corner.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you very much. And the audience this morning, and once more, wonderful to be home. What I can say this morning is that it's our relation with the U.S. is a very cordial relationship, and we are doing well on that side. And I am pleased to say that we have even increased our relationship after the visit of the minister last year, September, on a level of strategic dialogue between Secretary Kerry and our minister here at home. So the businesses that are doing, big companies that are doing business in South Africa have increased their number now entering the country. About 800 companies are now investing in South Africa. And out of those 800 companies, we have got over 200,000 jobs that have been created, and I'm talking about sustainable jobs. Therefore, that indicates to us that the relation between us and the US is good. Well, turning back to what your direct question that you have just asked me, I think the outcome of the results of the elections in the US, we should leave it to the US people to decide who their president will be. We are prepared as South Africa, whoever is elected in the USA, to work with and continue with our relationship that we have, because it's a country which is very strategic to us in terms of their economy. I'm sure we all would understand that their GDP is almost trillions, which are 60 times than that of South Africa. Therefore, it's very important that we relate to them in order for us to enjoy that economy, that we can cut a slice out of them and fetch it and bring it to South Africa. Therefore, we say that we wish them well in their elections, whoever will win, and we will proceed to strengthen those relationships and work together with them.
Fantastic. Ambassador, thank you very much for answering that question. I think it's quite important as South Africans to understand that we're dealing with a powerhouse, the largest economy, and it's relations that we need and we desperately need to keep going. Ambassador, Minister, these are things that we need to keep in mind. And I mean, when it comes to business operating on the continent, as we were hearing from the ambassador, it is so important. And what role do our respective ambassadors and heads of missions play when it comes to business working on the continent and in different countries?
Well, we had to change the name of our department from Foreign Affairs to International Relations and Cooperation. So all our high commissioners, ambassadors, and consul generals know that we are about peace building, first using our early warning systems to make sure that we have peacemaking, peace building, and so that we can focus on our Agenda 2063 goals and sustainable development to create jobs for the youngest region in the world, where more than 60% of our population in the continent of 1 billion people are young, agile, educated people. So this is what our representatives in the continent and abroad, wherever they are, they speak a South Africa that works for a better South Africa, in a better SADC, in a better continent to build a just, peaceful, and developmental world. So this is our mandate, and this is what we champion wherever we go, and we stick to that mandate. And as you rightfully said, all that which we needed to hear is what the President spoke to us about 2 days ago.
Yes, indeed. We've actually got representative from business here. I'm going to ask us to just get a microphone too. We've got Standard Bank, who are represented in the audience by Audrey Gatawa. And it'll be interesting just to see, Audrey, if you don't mind standing up, and you've got a microphone with you. Let's just talk about particularly the presence. I mean, you look at a big business and a huge bank like Standard Bank that has a wonderful presence in Africa, operating in different countries. And, what is it like to spread that footprint, working with the department and the relationship between business and the department?
So thanks, Leanne. So I think from a Standard Bank perspective, we've certainly refreshed our strategy to focus on the African continent. And our vision is really to be a leading financial services organization on the continent. We see the Department of International Relations and Cooperation as being a key partner in how the bank positions itself in the jurisdictions that we operate in. And I think a good example of where we've collaborated successfully with the department is, for example, the consulate in New York, which runs several investment seminars during the year. And Standard Bank has certainly tried to support these seminars, either by being part of the panel discussion or supporting them in other ways. So for us, the relationship is key. And from a Standard Bank perspective, as I've said, we really are focused on the African continent and how we position ourselves and how we work with government, not only in South Africa, but also the governments in the countries that we operate in. Thanks, Leanne.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Audrey, just to give us that perspective of working with the department and those relations. Obviously, our huge relation, and in fact, the last time we were here and we had this kind of conversation was when you were having this, it was a debate and it was a meeting of different businesses and governmental organizations from China that came here. Do we have a representative or our ambassador that represents South Africa in China in the audience? Do we? There we go. Okay.
If we maybe just before she comes in,
please do.
We're in the final preparation days for FOCAC, Forum for Africa-China Relations. I would say with humility that under the leadership of His Excellency President Zuma, we had for the first time a summit level, meaning a meeting of heads of states on FOCAC not in China, but in Africa, and South Africa hosted the first like that. That was followed by TICAD. Japan also thought they shouldn't be left behind, and Kenya hosted summit-level TICAD for the first time on African soil. In the past, it used to be when it's Africa's turn to host, it's called a ministerial meeting, and no president comes from those parts. And when it's Asia's turn to host, then the reverse holds. Yeah. This time around, we are being taken very seriously. Practically, we have hosted 2 very important summits, starting with FOCAC, where China pledged $60 billion of infrastructure development projects under FOCAC, but also we signed more than 90 billion rand worth of bilateral projects and agreements with China during that visit.
I remember it well. It was a very fruitful visit, and it worked exceptionally well for both countries. Now, having those huge responsibilities and those investments on your shoulders, let's speak to the ambassador. What is it like? I mean, operating within China. I'm not too sure where you are based, but in Beijing, working in China and South Africa, and the kind of bridge that you work as, because I imagine that's really exactly what you are, the bridge between the 2 countries.
Thank you, Leanne and Minister. I first want to start with saying when Minister talked about FOCAC, which is Forum for China-Africa Cooperation, what she didn't mention is that South Africa is co-chairing with China in that forum. And she is also the co-chair. Not so long ago, I think in July this year, there was a coordinators meeting for FOCAC, and our minister was chairing there. So we have a very strategic relationship with China. We currently have a comprehensive strategic relationship, and that's one of the highest relationships we have with a country, one of the most important relations we have with a country as South Africa. And what does this mean? First and foremost, China is very serious about South Africa as a partner, and as a partner, equal partner. We have a lot of things to learn from China, but they equally have a lot of things to benefit from South Africa. We currently share platforms in BRICS, in G20, and as I said before, co-chair FOCAC. The relationship with China spans across various areas: culture, politics, economy, and mostly economy. As we are now strengthening on economic diplomacy, you will find that most of our 9-point plan, which is part of our national development plan, the Chinese have made sure that in our cooperation with them, they have covered those areas. And hence I say it's a relationship that is very beneficial to us, of course also beneficial to the Chinese, but it's a relationship that is on point, and one of the reasons why in Africa it's hailed as a good relationship is that it doesn't have any preconditions on how to deal with the African continent. And that is what has made it have a relationship that is enhanced, looking at the relationship we had with our former colonialists. Within the short space of time that China has had a relationship with South Africa, we only had a formal relationship from 1998, which is even less than 20 years. But within that short space of time, our trade between the 2 countries is almost 30 billion rands. So the advancement in all respects is much higher than expected. And as you know, China has now become the 2nd biggest economy. Indeed. So it's quite a strategic relationship. And for me, what becomes very important about China is that it's one of the few countries in the world that has now become the 2nd biggest economy. But that wasn't always rich. And it's a country we can look upon to say, 20 years ago, they were nowhere. They were probably even less than where we are now. And now, 20 years later, this is where they are. Yeah. And therefore, we are able to follow the steps and know that if we are disciplined and we carry our business, it's possible to reach where they are. So that, for me, is one of the things that I think when I compare with other countries, because the developed countries were already streets ahead long ago. You have seen China come from a deficit and overtake and become number 2, which is mostly proposed to be soon number 1.
Indeed. Thank you so much. Thank you for talking to us, because that's really what it's all about, is lessons learned between two countries.
It's $30 billion.
Exactly, it's $30 billion, more than 30 billion rands. That's a big difference when we talk about those currencies, which is the reality. There's just one. We've got one more minute, so I'm gonna quickly talk about lessons learned on successful countries and countries that are doing very, very well. And I cannot let our former Minister of Tourism, who is here with us as well, if we can get the microphone very quickly to Martinus van Skulkwijk, Ambassador van Skulkwijk. He, of course, is based in Greece. I'm sure you're in Athens. Now, this is a country where, unfortunately, of course, tourism is unbelievable, but the economy, and that is something we need to learn from as well. We learn lessons of a successful economy, but we also got to learn lessons of how not to let our economy go down. I'm so used to calling you Minister. Ambassador, what are the lessons that we're learning and that your work you're doing there?
Well, from an economic point of view, it is a very interesting country, and the one lesson that we should learn from Greece is that we should avoid a downgrade at all costs. And that is exactly the message that the President delivered to us and what the government is committed to. But you are right, from a tourism point of view, it is a wonderful country in the same way that we are a wonderful country. And one of the things that we would like to do is to increase the tourism flow between the two countries. But there's another reason why Greece is an important country. There's a large South African community there, many people who were born here and people who have family here. And in South Africa, we have a Greek community from both Cyprus and Greece, which is approximately 60,000 Greeks living in South Africa and people of Greek origin. So we play a key role, our embassy there and their mission here, to ensure that everything goes smooth, visits go smooth. So the consular part of our work that we didn't quite discuss this morning is also important at missions.
Absolutely. Thank you so very, very much. I mean, that really at the end of the day is a huge responsibility. Those visas, those passports for expats and everything else that's there. It has been so interesting. We've got to wrap it here. Minister, can I give you 30 seconds? Do you understand? 30 seconds. 30 seconds to wrap this.
Leon, let us continue to keep South Africa moving forward through diplomacy. There's so much expected of us by the global political leadership, political economic leadership, and cultural exchanges. And we've got the best men and women on the ground to help us achieve these goals. Let's tell the positive story of South Africa. That's what the world wants to hear from us.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Let's sell ourselves. Minister, thank you. Heads of missions, thank you. And most importantly, South Africa, thank you very much for watching and getting an inside glimpse into a world that you never normally see. Have a beautiful day. We're back with you again bright and early tomorrow morning. It's Shap Shap from all of us here in Pretoria. God bless you.